welcome to Across the Bifrost, the Mighty Thor podcast, where on each and every episode we explore the world of Marvel's Mighty Thor. I am one of your hosts, Ryan Doze, joined today by, Eric, you're pretty much my interview buddy now, because we've interviewed so many people together, and Will and Fazer's missing out on these awesome interviews, man.
That's right. Yeah, I'm riding shotgun here for yet another creator interview, and we're Thunder Buddies, taking the show on the road here with another guest.
So our guest today, usually when Doug, I won't lie, when we interview people, it's usually people that have written comics, people that have drawn comics. We have not talked to someone who's actually worked on a Thor film, and you are one of those people that you're just hey, let's talk about design for the Thor movies. And we were like, absolutely. So it's my honor to introduce DOUG BRODE to our listeners and now our viewers, free on Patreon, which is crazy. But Doug, thank you for joining us today, man.
Sure. Glad to be here.
We are going to be talking about really a lot of your work in relation to the first Thor film. And we kind of talked in our little pre-game discussion here that you really haven't sat down and had a in-depth or a long-form conversation about the Thor movie. So I was wanting people to just introduce yourself. What do you do in the world of creativity? What was your role on that first Thor film?
Well, sure. A little bit about me. So, DOUG BRODE. I do storyboards and concept art for films. I'm also a writer. Some of the movies I've helped design that you've seen: Iron Man, Thor, JJ Star Trek, Looper, Maze Runner, Planet of the Apes, the Tim Burton one. Sorry. A few others. Although I will say, from a design standpoint, I still stand behind that movie. If you watch it with the sound off, that movie's awesome because it was really proud. We had a great design team on that one. But then and Harry Potter and things like that. So I've worked on a lot of the big name sci-fi kind of projects. And for Thor, I designed all the props and weapons. I didn't design the hammer, but I did work on the handle, which we can get to at some point. But it was a redesign of somebody else's design. You can't ever say when it's something like a key prop like that, one person designed it. So I designed everything that you saw for Asgardian weapons and stuff. But for the hammer, that went through a lot of people. But I did work on the handle towards the end. So that's, and So there's a little story about that, but we can get to that when we get to the actual weapons.
We're honestly, Doug, we're here for story time.
Okay, well, if you look at the handle for the original Thor, not the sequels, but the original, and look at it from a side, and you'll see the ridges, and they look like the Alien ridges from the Alien franchise, and that's where I got the idea to streamline it down. Because they were going with these big bands like Kirby had done, and then they were going with these more high tech handles. And so I took the bands that Kirby had done, and I simplified it with the Alien ridges, and so it was an outline. And so if you look at it, if you see a decent sized prop of the original film's handle, you'll totally see it. If you look at it right, you'll be it's very simplified, but it's definitely there. It's still there.
It almost makes it look like a spinal cord a little bit, where it's not just rings, right?
Well, it was the alien spinal cord. Thank Giger. H.R. Giger, he's the guy who designed the alien. So thanks.
So I am Doug, you didn't know this and I didn't tell you, but I'm just going to tell you right now, the Alien franchise, next to Thor, Alien is right up there at the tippy top of things I absolutely love. Yeah. So the fact that Thor's hammer is in some way
slightly. I mean, other artists worked on it too.
Essence in there.
The actual banding that goes along, I may not have done that part, but I definitely remember the ridges. There was a lot of us working on it. It had nothing to do with the main hammer with the language and stuff on there. I had nothing to do with that. There was 50 artists just dealing with that, and then I was hired to deal with all the Asgardian stuff. And the Asgardian stuff, I took a very different approach, and I'll show some of them here. But there was an old movie in 1980 called Flash Gordon. And at the end of the movie, Flash Gordon holds up this big gold sword, and he never uses it in the whole movie. That was such a waste. So the first sword I created was, actually, I guess I should just show a couple things while I'm here.
Well, please
do. The first sword I created was Frigga's gold sword. That's his mom's sword.
Oh.
And that's, if you look at, you ever see Flash Gordon or just Google it, it's Flash Gordon's sword. His was curved and mine is straight, but that's totally what it was. Yeah. And she pulled it out. Now, I don't remember if they used it in this one or if they used it in the second one, because my wife, who's then my girlfriend, and I saw the second Thor movie, and there was actually more of my props in the second one than there was the first, because all the stuff that didn't get used in the first movie, they just used in the second.
Oh, yeah.
You can see... That's Frigga's. That's the actual sword drawing that I did that pulled out of her bed. That's why there's a picture of a bed there that she was supposed to go over and pull it out of her bed. So
I think that got used in the second movie then, because that's when the dark.
Yeah, I think it was. I think my wife and I were watching the movie, and I kept saying, "That's mine." Wait, what's going on? I didn't get credit on the second one. I'm like, wait, I did that one. Wait, well, hold on. I didn't work on the second one at all.
Oh God.
But of all the movies I've worked on and haven't worked on, there's probably more of my props in Thor 2 than any other movie. There's so many, because they spent a lot more time in Asgard in the second one, but we designed it all for the first.
Very true.
So, and if you look through all the soldiers and stuff, do I have any other soldiers stuff? I have some other weapons I'll be showing. Oh, here's another soldier one. You can see there, that's silver with gold in it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's bad.
So that's another variation, and that was like for a soldier and this and that. And we made shields that had I get it out. We had shields that had gold in them. So here's like the shields that we used for the various soldiers. I don't remember if any of these got picked or not, but we do like lots of drawings for the various weapons. So like every weapon you do dozens of them. This was Loki's dagger that I don't remember And actually, my Loki dagger, I think, did make it into Avengers. I remember him stabbing him or something pulled out a little dagger or something, pulled somebody out. And I remember going, wait, was that? I'm not sure if that one's mine or not. It's hard to tell when it's small on screen, but I do remember designing the daggers for Loki.
I'm not going to lie, Doug. If it were me and my wife was sitting right next to me and we're watching a movie, I would get super annoying. But she'd be like... Drew that, made
you see that right there?
No, this was the dating stage.
Okay.
No, totally different world. Totally.
Did she find it super cool?
Long enough? No, different worlds.
Okay.
Dating world, that's awesome. She's so proud of me. She's very impressed.
Yes.
Married world. Okay, I got it. That's great. Okay, you told me like 4 times. I got it.
Oh my gosh! I never
like it's a different world
again. That's so cool. Like, so, you said right there that like many different people work on these different designs for like just like one item, like a shield.
For the hammer, there's 2 kinds of props. There's the key prop. So for like Star Trek, that would be the phaser, and that would be the communicator. Yeah. And everything else, like the tricorder or all the Romulan weapons or Klingon weapons, that would be me. So one person does all the others, but then the 1 or 2 key ones. Okay. They hire somebody, and then they might get rid of him, might go with somebody else, and that can go on for months. You don't want to be the key prop artist guy. You want to be the guy who does all the other props, because it's so much more fun. Okay. So I designed hundreds of stuff for Thor, but the hammer I only had a minuscule amount at the very end with the hammer.
Because you have a much higher likelihood of stuff actually getting used then, and then everything feels like it has a singular sort of like vision or voice to it.
That sounds fantastic, but it's just because I don't want to draw a hammer all the time for 6 months. Like, who would want to do that? Or a phaser or a communicator. Like, who wants to draw the same thing for 6 months? That means,
oh my gosh.
So I get to design. I at the time I don't really do that anymore. I just do storyboards now. But at the time I would do all these prop drawings, and they would just be all up over the wall. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. And my boss, the prop master Russell Bobbitt, he would give me certain notes. He would be like, well, these are how many weapons we need for these guys, and this and that. And we would talk back and forth, and and then once he would like this direction I was taking it, he'd put them up on the wall, and Kenneth Branagh for Thor would come in and he would look around, like obviously different directors. The only thing I remember about Kenneth Branagh was he was the most actorly of all directors I've ever met, because I remember
I can imagine that.
He talked to me about the epee sword for, I don't remember, one of his friends. He's got the guy who's a swashbuckler,
Fandral. Yeah.
Right, that guy. So sorry, I don't remember all the names.
No, it's fine. We'll remember them for you.
And he's like, I need a sword that goes like this, and he would swoosh around like he's Robin Hood or something, and he would be thrusting and be like, okay, I got it. So the only director I ever had did that, but he was a nice enough guy. But I definitely remember that, and he was the right guy, I think, for that first one, because when people forget, but when they did Thor, they really hadn't gone out there yet. Like we were far away from Avengers and it's definitely Infinity War and all that stuff. So when they did Thor was like really out there because they were also prepping Captain America at the time, which was much more grounded. And we had done Iron Man, which I had worked on, and that was pretty grounded too. It's sci-fi, but it's grounded. Thor was the first time where they were like, okay, let's go into Magic World and see if we can make this work.
Yeah.
Not a guaranteed thing. And I think the first movie's pretty safe, but I think it kind of had to be.
Right.
Because before you could get to something like Ragnarok, which I think is fantastic, you couldn't start with Ragnarok. Like, you had to really be a little bit more grounded, I think, to bring in a wide audience. It was easy to understand. A lot of it takes place on Earth. Girl falls in love with God. I mean, like, it was a love story. It was like it was an easily digestible to somebody like my wife.
Right.
They couldn't just go towards the Marvel crowd. I grew up with Marvel comics, so I knew all this stuff. But they did it right, I thought, that first movie with making it Anthony Hopkins and bringing in the gravitas of that.
Yeah,
which is certainly the Superman move. Anybody who's old enough to remember Marlon Brando and Gene Hackman being in Superman, they brought in the big names long before they started worrying about, okay, well, who's actually going to play Superman? We'll go with this unknown guy, Christopher Reeve, So it was the same thing. In fact, I remember the first time I met Loki, I thought he was young. I didn't know if he could act. I just met him coming in. Right. He was lanky. I had thought he would be more like a little bit older, a little bit more like, I don't know. I thought he was going to be like, I don't know what I thought from reading the comics.
Yeah.
But when I first met Tom, I was like, okay. Yeah, younger than I expected. Okay.
Yeah, in the comics, he looks about 45 years old. I mean, he's like a evil villain.
I expected him to be. I can't think of I know exactly what actor I was thinking of too, and I can't remember who he was or what he's been in that I could quote. But there was a certain British actor that I thought of with the hawk nose and the kind of narrow cheekbones and like very much like the comics.
Yeah, yeah.
But Tom did an absolutely amazing job. I think he's one of the best actors in the whole MCU. So But it is interesting when you first, because a lot of times I'll see stuff before anybody else, and not everybody gets it. When I was a runner before I became an artist. That means the guy who delivers packages. I worked for Joel Silver. And my first week there, they gave me some scripts that they were working on just to show me what they're working on. And I read the script to The Matrix. I didn't get it. I put it down about halfway through and I didn't get it.
You're like, what?
I'm like 27. I didn't get it. And neither did anybody else, to be fair, because Joel Silver spent like a year and like $1 million to storyboard that whole movie back to front in these really detailed like comic book things to sell that pitch, because the script was not immediately, it wasn't like you read and you're like, this is going to be the greatest movie of 1999 by a mile.
Yeah. So, you had to see it, and the storyboard was the way to kind of make it make sense.
Yeah. So, there's those cases where sometimes you don't know. Unlike somebody like Chris Evans, who played Captain America, as soon as you see him, you're like, yeah, that's the guy, Or
he is Steve Rogers.
Tell,
Yeah. There's no mistake. Like, I'll bet, first time Chris Evans walked on set for Captain America, it was like, well, he's freaking Steve Rogers. That's for sure.
I remember some concerns because he had been Fantastic Four, but I didn't have anything to do with Captain America. Funny story about that is that they were gearing it up at the same time, and I had really actually wanted to be on Captain America.
Okay.
And there was an argument going on next door. I remember it, and I was very vocal about it, not even a part of their department, is that if you watch Captain America, you'll notice there's no swastikas in it. It takes place during World War II. And there was a real concern about that, because I felt, Raiders of the Lost Ark had the swastika in there.
Everywhere.
And I'm Jewish. And I kind of felt like by erasing that, you're erasing a very vital piece of World War II by deleting that. So I thought it was ironic that it was the Jew that was like, no, you need to keep the swastika in.
And here's why.
I mean, there's a role reversal. But I do, and I always felt bummed that they did not put it. If you watch Captain America, there's not a single swastika in there. I remember being a little like, they kind of whitewashed that one a little.
Don't they kind of like substitute the Hydra logo for that?
Right, but originally there were conversations about originally that they were going to have the swastika.
Yeah. Huh. Wow.
And I remember being even I'm the guy next door, like just getting a water bottle or something and being like telling them my opinions.
Yeah. Chiming in. Maybe try this.
I'm just just saying,
because it was such a cool concept that they were going to do it in World War II and everything. I do remember.
Right.
be cool.
Right.
I actually think that of the two launch movies, I think Thor came out better because we had Anthony Hopkins. It's kind of tough to beat Anthony Hopkins as Odin. So
No offense to Tommy Lee Jones, but he's not Anthony Hopkins.
no. In fact, now that we're talking about Anthony Hopkins, here's another piece of art. Here's the Odin eye patch. One of the designs for it.
Oh wow!
And then here's another one.
I won't lie. Your Odin looks much closer to like a Daniel Day-Lewis.
I'm just drawing you out real quick. I wasn't really worried about like. Do I have another one in here? Wait.
Can't imagine Daniel Day-Lewis even entertaining a superhero movie.
Well, the thing was, I'm not even sure. I look back on these and I don't even know why I have why did I do these? Because this should be costume. I guarantee you, Russell, my boss told me to draw them. Usually that would be costume. So I'm surprised that we even have that eye patch. So
with that, like, and again, I've never even gotten within, a mile of a movie set. So you have a prop master and you have wardrobe, like where you were kind of just saying there, like, why was I doing this? Is that a common thing for the line to be kind of blurred? In the
depends on what
process?
It is in a sci-fi, or this would even be considered sci-fi fantasy type thing. Yeah, because they intermingle. They can intermingle. The lines are pretty definitive, but they can definitely intermingle because what one does. Usually we take cues from the wardrobe department. So for props, so we'll look at the wardrobe that they were doing. And I'm sure I did look at that, but I definitely remember looking at Flash Gordon for my big inspiration for the swords, and then the spears and everything came from that.
Okay.
But there probably was something gold that I saw in some of their artwork that clicked that for me.
Yeah.
And then the other big weapon, my favorite thing from Thor, hands down.
Oh, good, because I was about to ask this.
Okay, old school. You have to be kind of old like me to know this, but there was a movie called Sword and the Sorcerer from 1982. Okay. And in Sword and the Sorcerer, everybody should now pause the video and Google it. He had a 3-bladed sword.
Oh.
He shot the blades out from either side. It was the coolest weapon ever. No practical sense. It was the coolest weapon ever invented outside of maybe the lightsaber. And when I was a kid, I loved that movie. It's not a great movie. You should watch Conan instead. But Sword was amazing, and everyone should see it. Actually, it's a fun movie. But then now, if you look at what's his name, Volstagg. Volstagg's axe is a triple-bladed axe.
Get out.
And you can see it in the movie too. So there's the close-up. This is the drawing that got approved by Kenneth Branagh. It's a triple-bladed axe, and that's directly my nod to Sword and the Sorcerer. And
Doug,
that's my favorite prop in the whole movie.
That's wicked.
There was no way you were going to know this. Volstagg is my favorite character in all of Thor comics and movies.
Well, do you have a figure with the triple-bladed axe? Did they ever make one with the triple-bladed axe?
Hold on.
He's got to verify.
Because if they ever made a toy of the triple-bladed axe, I would definitely buy one of those. I'd have to go on Google or something.
You know what? Good for you. Because this figure was bought for.
Put it in front of your face.
I can't see anything.
Hold on. I'm going to take the blur off. No one
show the secret layer
for the state of my laundry situation. Let's see. Oh, hold on, Eric, come back to me.
Talk amongst yourselves. Doug, I got a question about you. You said you were familiar with the comics, the real source material.
Sure.
And I'm wondering, did they give you direction in terms of like researching Viking weapons or fantasy weapons, or is it pretty much just, we're kind of somewhere in the fantasy sci-fi and you just kind of decide? I mean, or how much were they advising you one way or the other in terms of reference material?
Well, no, there really was no they. There was just me and Russell Bobbitt. Russell Bobbitt was the guy I directly answered to.
Okay.
And we were always on the same page because we had done, we did Planet of the Apes, we did Star Trek, we did Iron Man together. So this was our fourth. I think this was our final one we did together. Then he moved to the East Coast to actually go full time with Marvel. So we kind of knew, he would tell me what he's thinking. as far as like, well, we got swords and we got spears. But if somebody says to you, well, there's swords and there's spears and here's what the costumes look like, you don't really need to be told anything else. You can immediately say, okay, this is the world we're going in. I'm not going to suddenly do one a big curved Sinbad type of sword.
So you make it fit. Yeah, you make it kind of
like
feel
a scimitar.
like it belongs.
I wouldn't have thrown that in there. It was very clear where they were going with it. But no, I never really looked at the comics. I didn't need to. Also, they're different mediums. Yeah. So, you want to honor what they came from, but the costume department's honoring it. The person who's designing the headpiece for the hammer, and certainly the executives are honoring it. But for a lot of the props, a lot of the things that have to fill out this world, you can kind of play as long as you're staying true to it. So no, I don't think I ever cracked open a Thor comic while I was working on it. But I grew up with Thor. I knew all those comics.
Yeah,
I knew the Walt Simpson. What's it called? Walt Simonson. Yeah. So I knew the Walt Simonson years, and and I remember the guy who then had like a horse head or something that kind of turned me off.
Beta Ray Bill.
Yeah, that turned me off. But I do remember the whole thing, and I remember there was an old '70s cartoon which was really just stills from comics that they used to show on TV when I was a kid, and they were Jack Kirby drawings, and he would put down his staff and he would turn into Thor, and that was a big show back in the '70s.
They were like a precursor to motion comics.
Yeah, right. That's exactly what they were.
It's Kirby panels with a voiceover.
Exactly. And those used to play on Saturday mornings or something. I used to watch those all the time. Fantastic. So I definitely remember Thor from that too. So
Doug, here's the answer to your question. I have a Volstagg figure from the first Thor movie that some of our co-hosts purchased for me a few birthdays ago. Yeah, and look at the design for that axe.
I show the axe, but does it show the 3 blades?
Yes.
Should be 3 blades in front of each other. Oh yeah.
There it is.
Oh, yes. I gotta get one of those. of those.
I will have to I'll talk to our other co-hosts who couldn't be with us tonight where they got this.
Yeah, please do let me know where they got that. And the name, like if you can give me a serial number or a code or something, what on there, email that to me, and I'll totally try to find that. Okay, we're completely boring our audience now with that. But yeah, no, I totally gotta get one of them.
I hope we're not boring our Thor audience talking about vintage Volstagg.
If they're listening to it, then all it's
we here for
drooling over a figure. So
that's so cool though, because I've had this figure on my mantle for forever, and I always think Volstagg's cool. But I was going to ask you, you kind of already answered this question, but like the coolest thing in your mind that you designed for this movie, and like that axe is badass.
Yeah. All praise to Sword and the Sorcerer. Now, after this interview, you should totally Google Sword and the Sorcerer. You'll see
Okay,
it.
I will.
The coolest sword. They'll have a video on YouTube where it shows where it shoots out the swords. It's so cool. Cool.
Man. So cool. So I kind of like the flip side of that, was there something that you look back now and you're like, oh man, I wish I could get if I could get another crack at this thing from the movie, or like I would do this, design differently. Is there anything like that you look back on with Thor?
Not a single thing.
Oh, really?
Because for any of the movies that I worked on, I was fully invested in them when I was working on them.
Awesome.
And, I was, for me to then try to second guess, I don't do that.
That's awesome.
I try not to second guess any of my work. I'm not saying that I don't ever look at something and be like, could have been better, but things are made of their time.
Yeah.
Like my favorite musical artist is Prince, and he did those songs that everybody knows. Like When Doves Cry was recorded in a night. Kiss was recorded in a day. Like he did the Little Red Corvette, I think was done in a day or two. Like they're done really fast because they're of a time and they're of a moment. And if he'd gone back later on, he wouldn't have been able to make it the same thing because they weren't made of that time. So I was in this time of Thor. it sounds weird when I say it, but I was very much into Thor in this. Like, this is my world. This is what I'm doing.
You're in the zone, and your decision making and your choices and your perspective in that mental space is what it is. And to go back and to be like, what would I tinker with? It's not even in the same, like you said, kind of in the moment.
Yeah, no, I think that art, good or bad, is of its time and of its moment. I'm a huge George Lucas fan, but I don't agree with the special edition. I don't mind having the special editions exist. I think the original should exist because the original Star Wars and those movies I grew up with, they're of their time, and trying to add digital trickery from the 90s isn't quite the same thing. You can't always go back. The only exception I've ever seen done well is Star Trek: The Motion Picture, which was not finished when it was released, and so the director did get a chance to go back, finish the visual effects, and tighten up the story in I think 2001 or 2002. And that's the only time I've ever seen that done right, and that's only because that movie wasn't finished. But I do think that art should be of its time. What's all?
So I love that answer. I love that answer so much, and I've made no qualms with anybody listening to this show over the last, God, Eric, I'm gonna get my own dates wrong, like 3 or 4 years we've been doing this. The beginning of my love of Thor was really this first Thor movie. And because I grew up loving Star Wars, having I was born in 90, so I had all the VHSs from the original trilogy and had the original box sets, not the remastered ones. It was like when I saw the remastered ones, I was like, what are these parts here at the beginning of the first movie? But like I wore those VHSs out, Doug. And then in the early 2000s, I was obsessed with the Lord of the Rings movies. And I would watch those on repeat.
I can see how you can go from Thor and Lord of the Rings. Yeah, there's a connection.
So when Thor came around, I hadn't gotten into comics yet. I lived in the middle of rural Iowa. I had nothing. I lived in Captain Kirk country. I had nowhere to go and buy comics or anything. But then I started seeing these commercials for this Thor movie, and I was like, hold the phone. This is my love of Lord of the Rings and Star Wars like clashing in a superhero. That's where my love of Thor came from. Cool. And a lot of it was the world building. Like I feel like really like with the weapons and the props that we've been talking about, a lot of that is world building.
Sure.
Did you feel like that when you're submitting designs, like, did you know kind of what the world was going to look like, or did you not know really until you went and saw the film that you're like, oh, okay, now this world looks
No, I knew. Of course I knew. Yeah. You're not in a vacuum when you're on a film. So you have production drawings from concept artists, you have storyboards. I do a lot of storyboards. You have all these different kinds of artists, and everybody kind of sees what everybody's doing because you all have to be on the same page. So no, I've never been in a film where I was like in a vacuum and didn't know what other things were going to look like. Okay.
With the storyboard process, because you said like that's kind of like what you're mainly doing right now. How is that like? I don't know. What is that process like?
Well, that's what I've actually always done. I've only done 4 movies where I just did prop design.
Okay.
Star Trek, Iron Man, Thor, and Star Trek, Iron Man, Thor, and Planet of the Apes. And then everything else has been storyboards. So in a storyboard, you'll sit down with a director and you'll go through the script and you'll block out the scene. And sometimes the director will have a clear vision of what they want. That's pretty rare. Looper, Ryan Johnson knew every single shot of that movie. Before I walked in the door, he had binders of it. That's the only time in 27 years, though, I've ever seen that happen. Usually...
Great film.
I've never seen it because I've drawn it, so I've never seen it, In fact, someone just asked me about Maze Runner, and they're telling me how much they liked it. I'm like, yeah, I haven't seen that one either. But because when you storyboard it, like that movie so well because you're spending a long time on it. But I hear great things about Looper. But like on different films, so you'll meet with a director and then they'll give you a gist. They might have a keyframe, like if it's a car chase, they'll have a couple keyframes they really want in there. They might tell you a little bit about the intro, and then you just kind of do a pass at it. And you might spend a couple days and it'll be like 60 panels or so. And you show it to them. I do about 35 to 40, about 35 panels a day, sometimes up to 40. And then, they'll look at them and then they'll usually be what I call reactionary directors. Well, they'll react to it and they'll be like, okay, let's change this, this, and this. And then usually that second time is where we're really kind of honing it in. And that'll have some of my ideas, some of his ideas, some of the stuff from the script. All kinds of things. So it's a melting pot. Everything in film design is a melting pot. It's never one person designed the whole thing. I know like Ralph McQuarrie, he gets all the credit. He deserves it. He's an amazing artist. I think probably the greatest production artist of all time. He did design all the main Star Wars things, but there were a lot of other artists who worked on that, who designed a lot of other things,
Yeah.
So there's not really a vacuum of one person. It's a very collective kind of thing, like the board.
Yeah.
I love that Ralph McQuarrie reference. I'm sorry, Eric. It's like he is the name that's associated with so many of the looks. The look,
and
of
he
Star
deserves
Wars.
to be. He's an amazing guy. I'm just saying he's an
But you're
amazing
right.
artist. I'm saying there were a lot of other people who had designed a lot of other things for Star Wars.
Sorry,
But it seems like with storyboarding, there is the chance to have that kernel that then you can insert that maybe it remains the whole time, or maybe it then gets iterated upon. But that's really one of the first parts. Like you said, maybe they have some keyframes in mind, but then you're the one making a lot of choices there. And if they like them, they end up staying in the movie, and you've got these shots that you've sort of designed. I mean, that seems like such a foundational
That's happened
piece.
on dozens of movies. Yeah.
do you have one that stands out maybe as like one you're like, oh God,
I would never say something like that, because I work for the director and it's the director's vision. And if I came up with an idea that helped him out, I would never say that this was so and so, that this was I shot that I did. I would never do that.
Love that. I love that.
Because you're all on a team. And so that
well, it's the director's vision, and it's my job to help him define his vision. That doesn't mean that I don't help ever come up with ideas, but I would never say anything that, I came up with, so I would never do that.
Okay. Well, I love that.
I don't think any storyboard artist would act. That's kind of the job. Like there was a storyboard artist who worked on the shower scene for Psycho. And he said that a lot of those shots were all his and not Hitchcock's. Number one, I really doubt that's true. Number two, you would never say that. Like, you don't say that. You don't, that's just not the job you're taking.
Mm-hmm. It's like, also like, it's Alfred Hitchcock. Like, don't like it.
Yeah, I don't buy it either. Yeah. I'm sure
you talk yourself out of a career, man.
Yeah. I would never speak out of turn. I would never say that.
So then, kind of going back to like the first Thor film.
Yeah.
Is there anything like in the process of that film and your contributions to that production that maybe we haven't touched on yet that you feel would kind of be missing from this conversation if we didn't discuss them?
So like, here's an axe. This is actually very Lord of the Rings.
I was gonna say that looks like a Gimli axe right there.
Yeah, this didn't make the film. I it's in my Thor pile, so it must have been from there. And then, do I have anything else? No, I think I've shown you everything. Oh, there's stuff. So here's something. So this is the spice container for Volstagg. So first, here's the container.
The spice container.
Right.
I love it.
So I had to design that, and then I actually drew a color storyboard to sell the idea about how it would work.
I love that.
His seasonings are so important to him. He's just got this compact ready to go.
We designed a whole thing just for his seasonings.
Oh God.
So, yeah.
Doug, you've made a Volstagg fan very happy today. I just need to make that very, very clear. Oh my goodness, I love that. So I know you mentioned it a few times. Like, worked on Iron Man, on Star Trek, Planet of the Apes, like a lot of different films. In your career, like, is there anything from those films that, I don't know, maybe influenced your work on Thor, or came out of your work on Thor, to get to do those projects? Well,
it would have been vice versa. It would have been Thor, believe was the last one. I think Star Trek actually came out before Thor. I'd have to double check that. I can't remember. But I'm pretty sure Star Trek came out. But yeah, Star Trek came out before Thor. So Thor was the last one I did with Russell. And Russell Bobbitt deserves a lot of credit for a lot of stuff on Marvel, because he's designed, or he's helped bring about all the weapons and stuff. He's built all the weapons and stuff that have been in all the Avengers movies, I think up through Infinity War or something, the good years.
Are we talking like Captain America's shield?
Sure. He did shield. Absolutely. He would have done shield. So, didn't we put in Thanos' glove in Thor? Did we show that? Was that not in the first movie?
Yes, it is, because at the end it's the prop glove,
right? That's because Russell thought it'd be really cool to put it in there, and everybody agreed. And then later on they got into the Avengers movies, and they're like, "Well, wait, shit, we already showed it." So they had to retcon that. But yeah, totally. In fact, another time he did that was on Iron Man. We put in Captain America's shield broken up or being half built or something in the back of Tony's lab that's in there somewhere.
Oh God, I love that Thanos glove.
Oh, wait a minute, Thor. That's right. Another thing that came up. Oh, I do have another story for Thor.
Fantastic.
I got to work on Hawkeye. That was very cool to me. I was bumping looking in purple tights, but I do remember thinking, "Oh wait, I get to work on that." So we did. But we didn't really design he basically just bought a cool compound bow, I think. But we did discuss about bows and stuff and things like that. And I remember wanting to design I think I designed some cool arrows and stuff that just didn't make the cut. But like, because I remember like in the comics that Hawkeye had all these cool arrows that like rocks would come out of and explode, all these cool things, So I do remember I did at some point design a bunch of arrows in Thor for Hawkeye. They didn't call him Hawkeye. They called him Burton. And then it was just like, just so you know, you can't tell anybody, but it's Hawkeye.
Those of you that know, and those of you that don't, it's not going to matter.
I didn't actually until he told me. I was like, because I knew Hawkeye, but I didn't know. Okay, his name was Burton and all that.
Well, and then when
it'd been a while since
movie came out, and people were like, "Oh, it's Hawkeye!" Like,
yeah. So, but I do remember that. I remember that being really cool, and I remember seeing all the designs for some of the stuff and thinking, "Wow, because like I said at the beginning of the interview, like it was their first leap into magic and first leap out of the planet, and like this was before Guardians of the Galaxy, and if you look at it actually through the timeline, you can see them dipping their toes, because first they dip their toe into the cosmos with Thor, then they dip it on even more with Guardians of the Galaxy, then they get way out there when they get into the later Avengers movies. Yeah, there was like a slow progression. Like, is this going to work? Is this how far can we take it? And then by the time you get to Infinity War, and what was the second one called? Endgame, they've gone all the way out, And I think those are two of the best comic movies ever made. So
we recently did a March Madness tournament to decide what was, how do we say that, Eric? It was like our favorite MCU movie, and those were the final two. So
surprise.
We agree.
Did anything after the third Spider-Man movie even get watched? Because like I saw the third Spider-Man movie again recently. I was like, wow, this is so good. I forgot how good this one was. And then, I haven't liked anything since.
I'll be honest, Doug. We're sickos for this stuff, so we've seen it all.
I'm just going to be that everything.
Was good, whatever his name was. Is that right, Shang-Chi? I remember that being better than I expected.
Well, two guys who aren't here, they're just like, they already got their Thunderbolts tickets. Eric, I'm sure you and Chris have your Thunderbolts tickets.
Oh wow, really? So you guys are all in? That's great.
It's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to do a niche podcast about one superhero and then not keep your toes kind of dipped in the water that he plays in.
But do you want a couple Iron Man stories? I mean, do you have Iron Man fans?
Eric,
are you not allowed to cross streams?
I just love the stories. I think it's fascinating
just to know that, to get that reference.
Please, Iron Man stories would be awesome. That movie kind of redefined the superhero movie. So,
well, a couple good stories for Iron Man was, I remember the day the first suit was shown, and the guy came out, and all the executives, all the big players are there, and we're in a giant hangar. By the way, I can't remember who's the guy who was like the really rich guy who had the giant plane. I can't remember. Anyway, it was a giant hangar that what I'm talking about, right? Like,
yes, I do.
Yeah, right. Howard Hughes.
Yes, Howard Hughes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So we were in the Howard Hughes hangar. That's where we did all the cave stuff. I only worked on the cave sequences.
Okay.
But I was there when they first showed the red and gold suit, and it looked cool. I mean, it looked plasticky because it doesn't look like it does in the film, but it looked cool, a little plasticky, but cool. And he's standing there, and everybody's like, "Oh yeah, ready to go." And he took one step and he fell over because the thing wasn't balanced right or something. And I started to laugh, and my boss was Russell was like, "Walk out if you're gonna laugh. Walk out," because like stakes were high.
This is suit day. It's very serious.
Who was that guy? Who was that guy?
Yeah. So I definitely remember that. And,
that's great.
I've heard a lot of talk lately and stuff on the internet about how the Thor script wasn't really there and they improvised the whole thing. The script was there. I mean, they definitely improvised some of the dialogue, but the script was actually pretty solid on Iron Man. Because what people forget is that Iron Man was actually the very first. I mean, they'd done Hulk, but that was really Universal.
Yeah.
Iron Man was the first time Marvel set out to make their own movie. And I remember thinking, really, you're starting with Iron Man? Like, it seemed odd to me at the time. Because people forget, but Iron Man was not like he was like a C-level character. He's like, he was not like anything. And I know we were also going up, we were all conscious that we were going to go up against the Dark Knight. And while nobody knew anything about Heath Ledger and everything, everybody knew the Joker was in that. And Batman with the Joker is an unbeatable combo, especially after Batman Begins. It just killed it. Yeah. So we were all very conscious of that. So we were definitely the underdog. And it was a small team. Like, it was not a big, it was shot like an independent film. Like, it felt more like an indie movie.
That's what I've heard about that production, was that it was kind of the one time that it felt really small.
It did feel small. The only thing I remember that was not small was my last day was their first day of filming, and their first day of filming for lunch, they had filet mignon and lobster tail. That you don't see on an independent film.
Wow.
I've never done that all these years later. I remember that.
Wow.
I ate well. Oh, I have another good Thor story. So it's only good if you're a Chicago guy. So if you have any Chicago listeners. But I grew up in a restaurant called Dewey's, and it's a pizza place.
Okay.
Anybody who knows anything about pizza will know that you got the Chicago boys and the New York boys, and we do not agree on our pizzas.
Yes.
So I told my boss about how great Dewey's pizza was. That if God came down and was going to have a slice, he'd go to Dewey's. So he said, it was like my last week. He's like, why don't you call up Dewey's and have them FedEx out some pizzas and we'll try it. So I called them up. I'm like, yeah, hi, I'm calling from Marvel Studios, from Thor production. We'd like to order 6 pizzas and have them flown out overnight. Click. Like, I didn't believe it. So then I had to have my boss call and be like, no, this is real. Here's my card. And then they're like, well, we can't overnight things. They're like, okay, here's my card from Marvel Studios. I'm sure you can find a way.
I feel like I've said Marvel Studios enough times.
They overnighted all these pizzas on like my last day or my second to last day. And then nobody had thought that we don't have any ovens. So all we had was these little heater ovens. So I had all these PAs are production assistants. I had them all at these heaters heating one piece at a time. Of 6 pizzas.
Oh, God. That's great.
That was I don't think that was my last day, but that was close to my last day. And then my last day, I remember they had filet mignon and lobster tail. I was like, I've never seen that before or since.
Wow.
So they were indie, but they still ate well on the first day. Usually the first and last day are usually the best meals on a movie.
Like an expensive indie with a big benefactor.
Celebrate that big move to another location or something.
That's awesome. And I love hearing stories from the early days of what became, the monster that,
Oh yeah, because it was nothing like that. Even on Thor, Marvel wasn't that big. Like they really weren't.
It's Avengers that it's like, oh, I think something's happening here. Yeah,
Avengers was when Marvel became a lot bigger. I think I didn't work after Thor with them.
Yeah,
but on the two, on both of those, they felt like indie projects, sort of. I mean, like they had money and they had budgets, but they were very off the grid. They were both south of LA. They were both south of LA. Neither one was like in any major studio hangars or anything. And there was definitely a guerrilla vibe to the whole thing.
I mean, Doug, you mentioned Iron Man going up against Dark Knight. It was like it's freaking Batman, like,
right? And the Joker. Like, I mean, it's really
and you like looking back. I mean, my kids are 8 and 7.
Yeah,
there's not going to be a time in their life that Iron Man won't have been an A-list Marvel character.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I know.
But
because of that movie.
Or like, even kids that coming out of high school, like my brother-in-law, and my sister-in-law is like, oh yeah, Iron Man. It's like, was not a big deal.
No,
like,
people don't remember. I grew up in the 80s and the 90s, or the 70s, 80s, and 90s, because I'm 53. So I remember he was just one of the Avengers. He had a comic book run where he was drunk that I remember was kind of interesting.
Demon in a Bottle is a great story, but it wasn't.
But it was like he was like a B-level guy,
Yeah.
Their big guys were Spider-Man and Captain America.
The X-Men.
I thought that they should have started with Captain America, because who knew that they were going to go so cool with it. I do remember reading the script, though, and thinking this is pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, and I just think that's kind of, that's why I like the stories from the earlier days. And being like, honestly, Iron Man being a gamble. Like, and
Oh,
Thor,
yeah,
you know,
it's
like
all gamble.
Thor, the cape guy with the hammer. It's like,
Well, it was a gamble because they weren't a film studio. I mean, they were Marvel
comic book company.
They called themselves Marvel Films or whatever they called themselves, but that was just they're just moving money from the comic books over to that and taking a shot. If Iron Man had collapsed, that would have been a one and done. You know?
Possibly one of the greatest what ifs in
limited characters
film.
they could use because Marvel had given away the rights to Spider-Man and to Hulk and stuff. So they you know, I think they weren't. I'm speaking out of turn. I really don't know this. I'm just guessing. They may not have been 100% behind the Hulk movie. Thought maybe it came out and they thought they could probably do better, and they did.
I think in the late 90s, like both major companies like DC and Marvel were like the comic book companies were struggling. So it's like how do you make money?
I think they still are. Comic books is a tough business.
See, like before the movies like really hit, like you sell off the rights, like you sell Spider-Man's movie rights to Sony.
Yeah,
you sell the Fantastic Four and the X-Men to Fox.
Yeah,
you know, all that stuff. Like in then Iron Man hits and like, oh hey, maybe we should try to get all these characters back. Like maybe
I'm sure they wanted to get the characters back before because I remember Roger Corman made a Fantastic Four movie. I've never seen it.
Oh my God,
I've seen the 90s Captain America movie, and in fact, going back to the beginning, the Captain America movie by Albert Pyun, I think is his name. He's the guy who directed Sword and the Sorcerer.
Okay,
which is a really fun, cool movie if you're an adult.
It's all connected.
Yeah. It's very much like a teenager's kind of movie, of a certain age. I'm not promoting anybody seeing an R-rated movie underage, but it's a lot of scantily clad girls with a lot of swords flashing, a lot of blood. It's not deep.
Just good, wholesome fun.
Yeah.
Doug, I know we've had so much fun talking about movies and the films you've been involved with, but like there's another aspect of your work that we really want to talk about, and it's your writing. One of the things
that's really actually my main focus now is I mean, I still do storyboards, but I don't do nearly as much. I do a big part of my life is now my publishing with my books. I have a whole publishing company now. We have a bunch of books out. The most successful of which you can see the covers to some of them. These are the Ship trilogy, but the most successful of all my books is Shelli. And it's about an android detective that's hunting a killer in Washington, D.C.
Love it.
And it got nominated it was put in the top 10 books of the year by sci-fi books by Reading Freely, and then some YouTube channels like Good Bad Flicks and Professor Geek give it glowing reviews. So that's really pumped up the sales on Shelli. So we're kind of all in on Shelli now. And actually, June 19th, the sequel comes out. You can actually still see the not for sale proof line here because I'm still proofing it.
Yes.
But the second one comes out. But I'm very proud of Shelli. I think it's the greatest thing I ever created. And it was actually a script in 2009 because I've sold a bunch of scripts over the years, and I had a TV show called Forbidden Science that I wrote and created, but it didn't come out quite the way I wanted. So immediately after getting back from filming that show, I shut down all the ideas that I couldn't do in that show, and I created a script called Homeland. It was a TV pilot about this android detective, Shelli, and it's hunting a killer in Washington, D.C. It, not she. That's a whole thing in the book. They're machines, they're it. Yes. And so it got a lot of attention. Chris Columbus, who made the Harry Potter movies, was interested in it. David Bowie's son, who had made a movie called Moon, was interested in it.
Nice.
I don't remember his name. So some big name people were interested in it, but it never got off the ground. And it was supposed to be my first book back in 2017 or 2018 when I decided to start writing. And I just wasn't ready. I wrote the first 50 pages. I just knew I wasn't ready. So I decided to start with The Ship, which is a more contained story. It's about a woman who wakes up inside a crashed UFO 35 years after she was abducted. And it's a much more contained story. It's more complex in a lot of ways, but that's just because of where it goes. But it was more contained. This Shelli has more world building. It has politics. It has, crime procedural elements. So by the time I finished the trilogy, I knew I was ready to write Shelli. And so I've been very, very happy that not only the readers who like The Ship been reading Shelli, but I've gotten a lot more new readers with Shelli. So
I love that. I'm
very proud of it. Let me show the cover again, do my little spiel there.
Yes.
Shelli. And you can see It's branded on the side like a slave,
Ugh,
like a robot slave.
cool.
And it hunts other machines. It hunts defective machines. So like it opens with this nanny that's killed the whole family to keep the house clean, because its purpose is to keep the house clean, and these people kept making a mess. So yeah, the tagline for Shelli was, humans have 4 motives for murder: passion, panic, prejudice, and greed. Machines have only one: purpose. So if they commit a crime, it's because their purpose has become corrupted in some way. So that's how the Shelli starts. But then when a senator gets killed, seemingly by a machine, but seemingly in an act of passion, which is not what you expect from a machine, Shelli finds itself now with a human psychiatrist type partner, and the two of them are off. He's like a human profile. He's like a profiler, and he's never been out in the field. You know, he's a fish out of water.
Yeah.
Working with this machine who's very abrupt and abrasive. And these two have to go try to figure out who killed the senator. So.
It's so sci-fi. Oh God! I know we've been talking about sci-fi this whole time, and I told you in our emails, I'm a huge sci-fi fan. Literally, that entire premise, I'm just like, oh my God, it's so sci-fi. I'm just gonna like rip it apart and just eat it all up. I love that. Is there anything that you want listeners, viewers on Patreon, if there's anything you want them to know about this upcoming book that you're willing to share?
Well, Shelli MurderMind takes place 5 years later. There's a big twist ending to the first Shelli book. So Shelli, there's really not a lot I can say. Shelli is no longer with Homeland Security.
Okay.
And gets pulled back in to investigate when 200 people die and they think the security system in the building did it. So Shelli gets brought in to investigate, but there's stuff with the Department of Defense going on, and there's, you know, it's a lot of shadowy conspiracy things. I grew up with X-Files. I'm a huge X-Files fan.
Yeah.
And like, I had one reviewer, it was the greatest review I'll ever get in my life. He said, think less Blade Runner, more X-Files with androids. And that's exactly what Shelli is. So it's like, you know.
And you're like you just
do these strange cases that deal with robots, you know. Or defective machines, man. And things like that.
Oh gosh, Eric, do you have any final questions for Doug as we we land our ship? Not to just reference your other trilogy. Eric, anything else we need to get off our chests?
Just a question I think I'm curious about in terms of your writing process. You know, are you sort of putting stuff on the page and then figuring stuff out later on, or do you have the master plan and you just have to get to it?
That's a great question.
Planner or pantser?
I've now written 5 books, and the only one I ever outlined from beginning to end was the ship. And I think all my other books are a little bit stronger because I didn't do that. What I do now, ever since my second book, is I outline the midway point. I'm a big believer that the midway point is the most important thing. And if anybody's watching this and wants to write a book, this is the best advice I can give, is that it can seem monumental to try to write a 350, 400, 500 page book. But if you think, well, I actually only have to write to the midway point, well, that makes it a whole lot easier, because midway point, everything changes. A couple of examples. Aliens. The first half is all about trying to find out what happened to the colonists. Midway point, aliens show up, wipe out almost the Marines. Now the entire second half is a completely different story. It's about, we got to get off this planet and survive. Yeah. Totally different thing. Star Wars, the original. The first half is, let's go find Princess Leia. The midway point, hi, I'm Luke Skywalker, I'm here to rescue you. The entire second half is the escape from the Death Star. So I outline to the midway point, and I make it a really impactful, powerful midway point. Especially in the Shelli books. And it changes the game completely. And so then I don't want to outline that, because I'll put a little paragraph about what's going to happen or who the bad guy is. But I don't want to know A, B, C, and D and everything's going to happen, because these characters, hopefully by the midway point, are living and breathing and can go their own way. And sometimes it's surprising where they go, you know?
Awesome.
You spent more time with them by that point, and you might have a totally different idea. Yeah.
You know, and that's a good way if somebody is watching this or listening to this and they do have an interest in writing a book. I don't know if I would recommend that for a screenplay. Screenplay, I do think that you should have the 3 acts kind of beaten out. But for a book, it's just so daunting to try to figure out a whole book, that if you just aim for that midway point and make it really powerful, that's your ending, basically, that you've been building up to. You just have to have enough threads and enough of a big turning point in that midway point that everything now flips. The script changes, and now you're off to the races on basically a sequel. I kind of look at it as like there's part one and there's part two, and it's basically a sequel after the midway point.
I love that. Just an example that popped to my mind, Doug, was I just rewatched Jaws. I've been kind of on a Jaws kick lately. And that
Did
first
they go to
movie,
the boat on the midway point? I don't remember. What's the midway point on that?
I mean, the midway point is when the shark attacks the beach, and then all our three main characters, they go off to hunt the shark in open water.
Exactly. Now you have two different movies. First movie is all about Amityville or whatever that town's called. Second half is about the boat. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very clear distinction because the rest of the movie, it's Roy Scheider and Richard Dreyfuss and the captain just going out and hunting sharks. There's not a single fourth character. I mean, unless you count the shark. There's not another entity in that rest of that movie. But I love that whole thing of like planning to the midway point, and then like Eric said, like they've already been breathing and moving and working in this world that you get to the end having even learned some stuff about the characters. I love that. Doug, is there anything else that we can share with listeners, with viewers, about the books, about your work, things that?
I would just say that I hope everybody will check out Shelli. You can get ebook, paperback, audiobook. I actually got Kelly Tager, who's a big name audio book person.
Fantastic! I love audiobooks.
She really liked it, and so she doesn't usually do the small authors, but she usually works with Bantam and stuff. But she took it. She really liked the book, so she took it on. And so, if you like sci-fi, kind of crime mystery type thing, I think anybody would like it if they like that. If you like 7 of 9 from Star Trek, I keep getting that comparison. I was thinking more of Spock, if anybody. Okay. But she's based on Spock too, so I could see how that connection would be made.
I love it. 7 of 9.
They're available on Amazon, obviously. All my books are, but I would start with Shelli.
So, and everybody, we're gonna provide some links in the episode descriptions where you can follow up with everything Doug's doing, his new books, his older books, and things he's up to. So, Doug, thank you so much for doing this, man. Thank you for
having me. I really appreciate it. It was fun to talk about Thor. It's not a project that a lot of people ask me about too much, so it's cool to think back to all that stuff that happened all those years ago.
What a shame. I'm glad. You know what? I'm glad we were the first. Everybody, thank you so much for listening to this. For myself, for Eric, for Doug, thank you for checking this episode out. Please go check out Doug's work. And if you want to, is there places to pre-order the upcoming?
Yeah, you can pre-order on Amazon, but before you pre-order, you can only pre-order the ebook right now. Okay. The hardcover and the paperback will be up for pre-order in a couple weeks. But I would say pick up Shelli, and if you like it, then you can worry about the sequel. But I feel real confident about Shelli, so I would definitely start there.
Fantastic.
I think actually on Amazon they call it Shelli the Android Detective. I just did that because it would give a little more clarification of the name. But if you open the book, it actually just says Shelli. a little search engine optimization. That's exactly exactly what I did.
Smart stuff.
But the book is really just called Shelli. But I thought Shelli the Android Detective. The funny thing is that Android is never mentioned once in the book. They're called synthetics.
Oh, fantastic!
But synthetic investigator wouldn't help search engine. Android detective helped more. So
this ain't Doug's first rodeo, everybody. He's gonna sell some books, man. Everybody, thank you for checking this out. We've had an absolute blast with Doug Brode, and check out those links and go support this new book. Check out the previous book, and if you like it, go check out the next one coming out. When, Doug? When is the next book coming out?
Shelli MurderMind comes out June 19th.
Fantastic. So just a matter of weeks away.
So just enough time to read the first one.
Really, this
that works out.
It's perfect. Everybody, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day. And remember, wherever you're at, wherever you're doing, whatever you're reading, whatever old movies you've been watching, and you're feeling inspired, just remember to do one thing, and that is to stay worthy.